hurting my nerve to the highest potential. I'm headed to the library to do some file transfers. 4 of my USB drives got covered in water. They might not work. But I have 2 new ones that I'm handing over to the federal marshals and the FBI. I already tried giving one over to the city police where I'm from, and they never called me back. So I don't know what's happening, but I'm not feeling well at all. So I made the decision to tape record the rest of this drive. I guess I could give some testimony. None of my videos are labeled, they're just dated. None of them have any testimony on them until just within the last 2 days. Okay, the truck is shaking right now, and I'm ready to spew. It's the type of bullying that is so out of control. I will give some kind of anecdotal sentiment here. This individual who I believe is doing this is a bully, but yet has never been punched in the face. In the entirety of their life, they've never been punched. So they're believing right now that this is akin or a parallel to fighting, which is what I do. So let's jump there. I train in the UFC gyms with professional fighters from UFC, Bellator, Olympics, Showtime boxers. And when I go to spar, much like I just said, when I put my head underwater and I breathe out, there's a huge chaos or dissonance or disconnect there that I don't understand. But when I go to spar periodically, I will feel like I'm not doing my sport. I'll feel like I'm instead a brand new novice, but that has equal confidence that I do. And I just stand still mid-fight, or at the beginning of a fight, I'll stand still and not know what to do and kind of feel like a deer in headlights. Other times when I'm doing my jiu-jitsu training, which is a part of fighting, I'll be wrestling another person and the pulsing will be shooting out of my body into the other person. And that happened with the man that I know that could probably recall that under the right terms. Another very real element of my fighting is that I can't hit people square in the head. Oh, there's another singular headlight. It's like Luck of the Irish happening. Fucking so dumb. I can't hit people in the head unless it's an official state sanctioned fight, because I don't want anyone getting hurt. So this fucking douchebag blasts me with bullying. And meanwhile, in the fighting centers that I'm regular at, I pull all my punches because I don't want anyone getting hurt. And then I further attest that I've never hurt anyone in my whole life. So what did I say at the start of this footage? I said that he's hurting my nerve. He's causing physical pain by excessive bullying, which I once found as assault and battery. I want it to be battery, and I want it landed on him. I don't care anymore. I used to hold his hand and something bent. He no longer even wants me to hold his hand through these trials that he's finding in his decision path. He now just wants to go wherever he wants to go and leave all parameters for others somewhere else. And this is why I'm reaching out to the federal marshals and the FBI, and I've already reached out to my local sheriff and my local police, and they were really clashed with me about it instead of participating in any way. In fact, one of them wouldn't even take the documents. They let me walk out of there without being able to hand them in. That's in Hamilton County. I'm now in Shasta County. I came to Shasta County because I really want to live in Republic, Washington, or Spokane County. But this guy is menacing everyone. He's going to ruin the vibe there. So I'm like, what's a place to go that's really good that I don't intend to reside at? And bam, that's why I came to Northern California after trying Portland, Maine, Virginia, Wyoming, Idaho, Reno, Sacramento, Livingston, Texas, where I actually bought property, and on and on and on and on and on. He ran this routine in southern Indiana and Rock Springs, Wyoming. Did a certain in Spokane, Washington, where it was least effective. It's highly effective here, what he does. And I have zero tolerance for it, so it usually just works. But I'm recording the duration of this trip because I feel really, really bad about what he's doing. I'm going to be suing for the rest of my life, so I'm not really worried about how it's coming off. I held his hand for over a decade. He's been violent at me for over 9 years. 9 years ago, they started doing these violent attacks, and there's injury on the left side of my abdomen that you can see in my profile pictures online. It just burst and swelled up to be about the size of a pear. It's still there to this day, right where he's pulsing me, right where I'm recording it. So this is for the federal marshals and the Federal Bureau of Investigation and a bunch of Ohio attorneys and some California attorneys, because they get involved at my workplace and they violate all of California's workplace standards, and then they act like it's confusing. So every day I come in, I'm like, there's another headlight out. I'm like, don't do this. Don't. And they just get confused and go right ahead and do it. So that's another thing I have to contend with legally. See, he's managed himself in a place of defaming me, mischaracterizing me as an evil man. So when I tell him that I'm suing him, he rests on that like a merit. And if you go home to Cincinnati, where I'm from, you ask anyone that knows me, you're going to get an earful about what I just said. They're not fully competent enough to understand legality of those decisions. So they'll just tell you if you ask them. Because I was their leader, I was the firstborn male, I made all the right calls, and now they're on their own. Plus, there's a certain exuberance from the high-end elements of this targeting private investigation game or system that they've come up with. So he loses track of that kind of middle ground where I'm going to clean his clock at forever. But continuance of pursuing him in court forever. He's so wrapped up in this UFO stuff or whatever, this Roswell weather balloon stuff, that he doesn't understand how vulnerable he really is. Merely admitting to doing it of what I'm suing him for. I'm struggling right now. It's so hard. And I've managed my way through it because I'm a good brother and a good son, and now they're on their own. And I think the theme is that they're requiring me that I don't, which they're shit out of luck at. And if they straighten out, they'll have a really good outlook in front, but they're not. They're gonna focus right where they're stupefied and right where they're high and inebriated off of this stupid fucking legal shit. You might just want to check them into a daycare somewhere, which is basically the prison system. Is daycare for fucking shithead adults. Plus, they always try to masquerade like I'm being accused of some crime. And just so you know, I'll give a blanket confession to anything that they accuse me of. Anything. Anything that they can say, but they have to say it. And they have to document it. Because that's how the legal system works. Okay, you don't get to hide in it anywhere. It's all formal. So, and I'm giving them a preliminary blank confession to anything they accuse me of. That just expedites the process. And then due process will take over, and the chances are 100% complete that they'll be found to be doing more crime and not me. That's with a confession. To any LE place in America. Guilty of everything that could be said about me, but you have to do the 4th and 5th Amendment and due process, speedy trial. And there's tears coming out of my eyes right now. This is easy. Seeing it happen to someone I love is what I'm afraid of, and I'm not going to budge. So I would grow up. Probably not, but at some point when I start throwing around that $1 million thing, someone's going to hear me out. So. And that's, well... one of the philosophies I have about what's going on here is I'm cool, or I'm sociable to that degree, as much as my own children will know of this, you see? So a lot of times I emulate a child of mine, and if I don't like it, they get a 0. If I don't like what's going on, then I rely on that time and place where it's expunged and that child is none the wiser. And fuck, this is brutal. So I mean, I could be limping down the road throwing up my guts at their hand. There's another headlight out. That's the Irish thing. Some O'Reilly headlight Irish luck. Wanted dead or alive. Well, so I make it through all this perils and bullshit that they are charging at me with, and then I shake it off. I immediately get married and have a little beautiful family. And those little kids aren't going to understand the world like that, you know? So I just kind of rest on that. Like, that's as happy as I am, it's as happy as they are. And they're not in existence yet because of this garbage. And that's why I'm not turning 36 without them getting fucking nailed for it. On Christmas this year, because I don't get a Christmas this year because my family are a bunch of criminals involved with this stalking garbage. Well, I'm lost, but look, another guy with the headlight out. You need to do some automotive technical stuff, brother. You're gonna get somebody hurt. We can't rely on Irish luck. Like, I'm gonna become a deputy myself and just ticket all these people until they fall in line. This is absurd. Well, anyways. No, it's not. They're incompetent. Well, Christmas Day, I'm filling out a bunch of envelopes to send to up to 100 Ohio attorneys to handle this stuff where it was originally had in Southern District of Ohio, state court or county court, the county where I'm from, which is kind of not even really a county, it's more like a fucking zoo. So why bother? I do know the clerk of courts from the county where I'm from is a good guy. That's probably about it. That's probably about all. Because they get to amazing someone like this, and they lose all wherewithal, and they start acting like animals. And so whatever device they have around my spinal cord, which is the biggest topic of all, and the hardest one for me to endure with, that means that every person who's taken the Hippocratic Oath and every person who's taken oath to the Constitution that's walked by me on a daily basis for the last decade plus, or 15 years, that means they violated their oath. And that's really hard on me. That's why I'm kind of really free-falling right now. And they're further taking advantage of me. They're saying that they're sex trafficking me, which is a federal crime of 50 years mandatory. So they're comfortable with that because they're inebriated and not all the way competent, not fully competent with their decisions. Which is fine. I've shown enough mercy for them to bother. The deadline is 36. When I turned 34, I had an epiphany of the most negative epiphany one could have. I realized that that man I dreamed to be as a little boy, it turned out to be a Sub-Zero. And so, write that down. Explain that one. You can't without seeing fucking a handful of felonies and probably some Princeton terms. So where's the venerable judge who's made this determination at me? And let me hear from them. You know, the venerable judge is going to be proceeding over our case. Do you not have one? Somebody just pulled out and they don't have any headlights on. That might be intimidation right there. It's hard to spot, but they're out. Those are bumper lights. Yay. So I was the firstborn son of my family, and I had to look after my little sister for the first half of my life until they started fucking gang stalking me, or whatever you want to call it. Crime. They started doing crime and left me with my balls in my hand. So my response to them is that they should just incarcerate me and let that process take care of itself, because I can do better dealing with them in jail than I can out here. I've never done anything to anybody, nor will I, but I can say it. That was a police officer, by the way. So and again, this is being forwarded to the federal marshals. I don't know where that cutoff is, if it's a like a tribunal thing or something. I know what the law is. There's also something called a linear loophole. It's like they push you into need of DOJ, and then the DOJ just stands idle, and it puts you in this weird kind of bubble. But anyways, we made it 22 minutes and a half. It's like this bubble where like you're supposed to be a freak or something. And I blame my parents and grandparents and the losers that I grew up with, personally and completely, especially the ones from my Catholic high school. So, you know, maybe I should write to them. I wouldn't, because I'm going to be suing for the rest of my life. And any and all. And I might take the bar.